What's up, everybody? This is the Gym Therapy Inc. podcast. Please follow along with us as we try to bring mental health awareness to a small western Pennsylvania town. Let's go.
Hello, with you. I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
On the trust tree in the nest, are we not?
I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member.
Welcome. It is March 12th. Spring forward. We did a little clock change last night.
That's a big clock change, not a little one. We lost an hour.
Yes. I don't like that. We're here with Jason Childs, the credit doctor.
Formerly known as
owner, operator, Cedar Financial Group. Jason was one of the first people I met outside of like my childhood friends that was actually one of my first mentors. I'll give you that. I'll give you credit for that.
Yeah.
So you were my first one. I wouldn't be sitting here today doing this if you were at some point part of my life. So
and you still have hair after working with Justin.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Wow, that's big, man. That's big.
yeah.
That's
But
a great introduction.
Gym Therapy Inc. Lissa, Trista as normal. Jason, you're here
as abnormal.
Yeah.
As normal.
Do you want to use your voice? Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
We've done this stuff.
Hi.
We're not
terrible at this. We know
this
what we're
isn't
doing.
NBC, all right? You're on.
Yeah.
You're
But anyways, how
But-
was your week?
My week, I completely skipped the gym. We had it was a long ass week this week. I completely skipped gym. I didn't go anywhere. Super unmotivated. Week started out. We had a local man who passed away. I'm just Cubby Macco, great guy. All our friends and family, just a person that we've known our entire life, and it comes from a really good family. That was how the week started out.
And we really love his kids.
Yeah, his
I
kids.
grew up with them. Good kids.
We also had a friend get pretty sick in the hospital too. So it was just a long ass week. The weather was off and on. So we thought, motivation. We'll
But
talk
we
about
also
motivation
had
today.
a friend that
Ooh, let's talk about some good stuff.
What
Yeah.
did she do
Yeah.
this week?
My adaptive athlete Jasmine Mock got 4th place worldwide in her division at the CrossFit Games.
Mhm.
That's
So
awesome.
that was a really big accomplishment for her. Her goal last year she took 8th place. Her goal this year was top 5, and she hit 4. So she, cut in half from last year. Got 4th place this year. So
Isn't that what makes her
stoked.
first in the country, right?
she's first in the country. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
4th place worldwide, and that's a huge accomplishment.
No big deal, coach.
Yeah.
Just coaching the
Just coaching the
the
best.
best,
Coach
yeah,
and fitness
the best
world,
adaptive
yeah.
athlete in the country.
And just the health issues that this young lady has been through in the past year, constantly in and out of the hospital, infections, constantly on different antibiotics, has a feeding tube, and has just
Whoa.
really been put through the
Yeah.
ringer.
Yeah.
Health, emotionally, mentally, physically, it's
The resilience doesn't even begin to
Wildlife
describe her.
with the weight fluctuation, just basically woke up one morning and was paralyzed from the neck down. Not to scare you.
Whoa.
and it's hard to watch. It's hard to see, someone go through that. But the kid's a fighter, Manly. She comes out swinging and she doesn't give up. And there are times that you have to kind of talk each other back from the edge. We all get to that point of breaking, and we can always bring her back. Hey, you can do this. You're resilient. You do hard things, and she did, and she crushed it. She even had to go to the hospital in between some workouts, but.
Hey,
She
man,
made it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something, and it's, in life in general, we get hit with things, right? And we have a choice either to be debilitated by it
Mhm.
or be stimulated by it, right?
Yep.
She sounds like a warrior. Like, all these things are hitting her in life, and all it's doing is stimulating her to want to achieve, to want to grow, right? But we all have that within, we just have to make that decision. Sometimes it seems easier to just be debilitated by these things that are thrown at you, and we become victims. Why me? Why is this happening? I can't believe it. And we dive so deep down that we sometimes can't get out and be motivated, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about motivation today, and that's why Justin had brought me on. Because, all of us go through trials and tribulations. It's written in the book. If you don't know what the book is, catch me later. We could talk about that. But that's the most important thing. It's written that we're going to have trials and tribulations in our life. And the cool thing is we have a choice to either be stimulated or debilitated by it.
Mhm.
And the more that you follow that debilitation, the deeper you sink and the harder it is to get out and get motivated to do something like your friend did. And that's awesome. I applaud her, man.
Yeah.
So I
That's
think
great.
it's a big thing is noting the difference between having a growth mindset and having a fixed mindset. When you have the fixed mindset, you think of more of the why me, why this always happens to me, bad things always happen to me. You have that growth mindset. It's more of a what is this teaching me?
Yeah.
What can I learn from this? How can
Yeah.
I become out a better person?
One of my
Yeah.
favorite things is just somebody that takes their biggest weakness and
Turns
flips it
around.
into their biggest
Oh,
strength.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
overcome if
Yeah.
you don't have an obstacle in front of you. You know, imagine the things you learn. What's motivation to you, Jason?
You know, motivation is just a ton of external factors that make me motivated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what motivation is.
Mhm.
But let me tell you this: motivation does not last.
Oh
That's
my
a very
God,
good
yeah.
point.
Motivation is temporary, right?
Mhm.
Discipline has a higher attendance rate than motivation does.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
I
you were
told
just
him
talking
that,
about
and
it.
he keeps
Yeah.
using it.
And consistency. Consistency.
Well, and that all comes together. But like you were talking about it earlier, right?
Yeah.
You said, you know, and even you as a
You did
gym
too.
owner, right? You see people that are motivated, right? January 1st, they're coming, baby. I'm going to do this because they're motivated. They have this motivation. It's a new life. It's a new start. Let's go. But that motivation never lasts.
No.
Mm-mm.
Unless what? Desire.
Desire.
Yeah.
Desire. If you don't have desire and prior to getting the desire, what goes before that?
So
The
that
big why.
yeah.
What's my why? Why am I doing this? Right?
Mhm.
And if that why isn't so big, that motivation's not gonna last. It's gonna be a quick,
Yep.
oh, I want to do it. Yeah, I could listen to a hardcore song and get excited for a minute, right?
Mhm.
But what's gonna be lasting? If it's about fitness that we're talking about motivation, I'm sore the next day. I don't want to go in, right? Your motivation is gonna be there. Motivation has to have desiring factors, and you have to have a huge why.
I love
What is
Yes.
my why?
Why is the
So-
biggest? You have to set your internal GPS.
That's why
Really
I
big
have
time.
one-on-ones with people, and I sit down and ask them those questions.
Yeah.
So I want to lose weight. Okay, that's great. Everyone wants to lose,
Right?
but why? Tell me your why.
Yeah.
And sometimes when
Love
we
it.
dig deeper, we hear things like, I want to be able to trace my grandkids around. I want to
Boom.
be able to carry my kid through Disney.
Mhm.
I had
Boom. Yeah.
I'll talk about it. I don't think he would mind me saying this, but a gentleman from the gym, him and his family were going to Disney. He
Mhm.
wanted to be able to carry his kid through Disney.
It's a lot of walking.
And
It
It
is.
really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I hate Disney. Let me tell you something. I hate Disney. There's Disney lovers. There's people out there who love Disney. They do it every
There's
year,
adult
right?
Disney people. Yeah.
Let me tell you, man. I am not a Disney fan. Don't hate me for
It's
that.
it's a once in a
It
lifetime
is,
kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
and it is.
yeah.
I think everybody should experience
Yeah,
it. once
absolutely,
they do.
But they're
Yeah.
diehard Disney people.
Yeah.
out there.
Oh,
You
yeah.
see these guys?
Yeah.
They are
Vacation
diehard
from-
Disney.
Yeah.
Your vacation after that.
And not
But-
that it's not awesome,
Yeah.
but man,
they
it's a
just
lot.
went like
It's a lot.
a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and his toddler's probably like 2 or 3, and she's like, "Dad, will you carry me?" And he goes, "Can you just walk, please? I'm really tired." She's like, "There are butts in my face." So
Little kids are butt level.
I was like, "Please tell me that you picked her up." And he's like,
That's
"Yes,
funny.
of course I did."
Butts in my
And I was like, "That's why you fitness." But
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
absolutely agree, and I think that and it took me years as a business owner to look for to start asking those big whys. My retention at my gym is pretty good because we don't have the people that are typically the January 1st and only make it till March. Our retention is pretty good
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
we push the small active changes and not like drop everything you love to lose
Right.
weight and
Yeah.
to feel good. Like
Right.
when you do that, when you go for a deprivation diet, you're gonna fail.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna when you are feeling like deprivation on week 1 of a diet, you're gonna fail. You're gonna end up binge eating because we're humans.
Sure.
We have to
Mhm.
we want pleasure in our lives, and you have to have a good balance.
Yeah.
So we promote more of a healthy lifestyle, and our why being something bigger than just looking
Losing
good.
weight,
Yeah.
right?
I think
Speaking of which, not to interrupt, but how's your weight loss going, bro?
My weight loss, my body shape's better. My weight's a couple pounds less, which I'm completely okay with. But because fat to muscle and whatnot, and
Sure.
I probably work out just so I can eat
Yeah.
what I
more.
want, and that's probably bad.
Yeah.
But it's a first step. We talked before. Some of my meal plans have changed, like a little bit less food, a little bit more often. But
You got a text that was, "Why are you at KFC?"
I was at KFC work related.
Because
It
it's
had
good.
nothing.
It
I
feels
did not.
good.
It does. I mean, the
Feels good.
mashed potato bowl is one of the top 5
Mhm.
takeout or
Favorite food.
Yeah,
fast
it's
food.
one of the top.
But I was there work related. I did not eat at KFC.
Someone would text me and they're like, I just saw Justin at KFC, and I'm gonna text them.
I wondered what you were doing out of your cage.
Yeah.
You were busted, dude.
I know.
KFC. But
Yeah.
that's funny because that's what we do. You know,
Yeah.
we do things for pain or pleasure. And regardless of what our isms are, and we all have them, right? You know, we do them typically for pleasure.
Yeah.
So when we talk about motivation and it lasting, you know, some motivation, some things you got to do and be disciplined to do aren't real pleasurable at first, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't feel good.
Most of it isn't.
And when you start using in your mind, and we were talking about mindset for a minute, man, when you lack discipline and you don't have that mental toughness and that mindset, it is so easy. And I'm gonna give you an example of my life. It is so easy to fall off and not be motivated towards that direction of that goal just because this is easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening to Jim Rohn. By the way, Jim Rohn's awesome, man. He's a great leader. He's one of the OGs. So if you ever listen to
RONE.
ROHN.
Okay.
So if you listen to him, but he goes, you know, it's pretty easy on the weight side, right? We know that intake and whatever I bring in, I just got to outwork it, right?
Mhm.
Number one.
Ooh.
But we also know, this is what he says. He goes, also know that breads, wheat, sugars, salt. He goes, man, if you get rid of your bread, all of your flours, your sugars, and all your salts, dude, you're gonna lose weight. You will if you exercise and you have good proteins. The equation isn't that difficult on intake and extake, right?
Yeah, but you
It's
can't
not
just-
that difficult. But here I am, and I know that. I'm like, man, I don't need to eat any bread. Man, I don't need to eat any cake. All right, and I love it. I want some cake. But then I go to my kitchen. I'm like, man, I'm feeling a little bit down, right? Whether it's the weather, whatever it is, and I go. And of course, I have 5 kids, so we always have goodies somewhere, right? Which isn't the best thing to have in the world. But my wife brings home cookies, and I'm sitting in the kitchen. I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. I'm going to eat it. Well, she brings in these fresh buns. And who doesn't like a fresh bun, right?
Yeah.
With a sandwich, you put the meat and the cheese and you throw it in. And I build the sandwiches right after I listen to Jim saying, it's not that hard, man. Just drop some of your bread, drop some of your sugar and your salts and all this, right? But I'm sitting in there having a hoagie. Who doesn't like a hoagie? And then what do I wash
So
it
just
down
get
with?
out of the kitchen.
What am I washing it down with, right? It seems simple, right? What am I washing it down
A
with?
beer.
Water.
What a cake. I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank in 3 years.
Good
4
for
years
you.
now.
Oh,
4
good for
years.
you.
4 years. Clean and sober. Haven't had a drink. And
Good.
I feel better, more clear than I ever did. And it's not that difficult after the first year or two.
I 2 sandwiches 2 a.m. last night.
Yeah. Mhm.
Two
I just-
sandwiches.
2 sandwiches 2
If you
a.m.
get
So-
my potato rolls for my lunch, I'm gonna be
I
so
didn't.
mad.
I didn't know.
So
Listen.
I take like issue with when people say it's not that hard,
Okay.
because for some people it is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like women, number one, hormone imbalance.
Sure.
When you start going through menopause,
Thyroid
never-
issues.
thought
And there
about
are
ever.
a sector, and I'll correct myself on that. There's a sector out there that you do have, your predisposition to different issues like that.
Mhm.
But
So-
on a normal diet for a guy like me at my weight and what my metabolism is, I can calculate what it'll take, right?
But think about too. you have
Stop
to
eating
think
cookies.
You know she's a
Jason,
certified
that's for
nutritionist.
me. For me, stop eating cookies.
your stress level, your sleep level, all of those things also.
Oh, it's huge.
Play a big thing. And there's also something called leptin resistance. So it's a hormone
Yeah.
that's in your fat tissue. So and sometimes when you have a high body fat and the receptors in your brain stop picking those up or saying like, hey, you have enough fat stored, you don't need to eat. And then so you're eating and eating even though you're not
Anyway.
physiologically hungry. Those sensors are off and you're just eating and eating.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. And I just did a women's health seminar yesterday and we talked about hormones. And for women, I have seen so many women just beat the shit out of themselves because they say like, I'm not motivated enough. I'm not willing enough. I'm not this or that. But especially I can speak on the women's body that our bodies are designed whenever we're going into levels of deprivation, it fights back.
Yeah.
And it's like you need to eat and you are hungry all the time.
Mhm.
And especially elimination diets. I did keto once and
Mm.
when I was married, my husband goes, will you please eat carbs? Like, will you please start eating
Yeah,
carbs again?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, he's like, you can tell in your energy levels and like your mood swings and your fatigue. And I think, being in my mid 30s now, my
puppy.
intake and everything has changed. So it goes from what I used to do is calorie intake and outtake wise isn't the same.
Okay.
My metabolic rate has changed.
Mhm.
So my body burning calories by doing absolutely nothing is lower than it was 5 years ago.
Right.
And
Wow.
it lowers every decade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every decade.
Wow.
That's a scary thought. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, and you wonder why people get so frustrated and
Right.
they give up and then they just keep gaining weight.
Yeah.
Just
It's
from
because it
like,
changes.
just from like a whole other perspective. This doesn't really have much to do with eating, but like from where I get my motivation is from watching people that have been successful. Uh, every single last person in my life has been successful. You own a gym and you sold cars for 20 years and now have a job that you like to do. And
Well, that
my
also
aunts
goes
and
back to
uncles-
what your level
Well,
definition of success is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will never be the success that I want to be because it's never going to stop being something more.
You're just
than-
going to keep going,
yeah,
keep going.
Yeah, but
Would you
like-
say you're successful though?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't. Every morning that I wake up and I just don't get high is a
Yeah.
success.
The amount of
period.
people that are professional athletes is the same number of people that overcome the type of
Yeah.
addiction that you
And
have.
like
So I would
Trista's,
I'd mark that up as a success.
yeah, and you talk about Trista going from like 1 to 100 when you go into the gym for the very first time, and that is what I want. I want to be here and not know nothing, and then tomorrow I want to know everything, and that's why I struggle so hard
Mm.
at the gym because
Yeah.
I used not this kind of skill level or whatever, but I used to be good at sports, and I used to be really good at the
What-
things I did, and I'm
what
not really
makes
good at
you-
this sport yet.
What makes you think that you're not good at CrossFit?
I didn't say that I wasn't good at it. I'm just not
Because
as
I
good
can,
as everybody else.
I can tell you that you are moving more weight than I did within the first year of CrossFit. That's huge right there.
Oh my
Like,
God.
Oh my yeah.
I
yeah.
think what you're trying to say is when you start something, you want to know everything about it. By the end of the day, you
Yeah.
want to ask every single person.
Yeah.
You're like one of those cars you pull back that go till it clicks. You're clicking. Is what
Yeah.
you're doing. And if
And
you
you're
lift
gonna-
up, your wheels are going to spin, and you're going to waste all that energy.
Yeah,
So you just kind of
yeah.
have to stay grounded. Cars on the ground. Stay
Yeah,
grounded.
well-
That's an awesome analogy too, brother. Listen, the reason, and we're talking about motivation today, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But, you know, and there's different factors in life that make you successful and that you're motivated to get to, whether it is your weight loss, which we were just educated on how, you know, what it takes to really, really dive in and get that weight loss, or whether it's financial and what success looks like. He, you know, what he's doing, or she owns a gym. And, you know, there's different areas. There's really 5 pinnacle areas where you should be motivated to define success in your life. And I'm telling you, not one area or the other area is going to make you feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
What you just said, what I love about what you just said, because I live it and everybody else lives it, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not going to be, right? And that, by the way, that's a limited belief system. So what we need to do, and why people don't stay motivated, is because they have a limited belief system, right? I can't never do that. I'm not going to get there. And
Mindset.
it's mindset, and it's a limited belief system. You
Mhm.
absolutely could. You could own whatever you want, right?
Mhm.
You know, backstory on me, just to kind of let you know who I am.
Yeah.
I didn't graduate high school.
Yeah.
All right. I had isms. All right. I had a lot of isms. Came from broken home. You know, self-medicated myself with ADHD. Okay. My favorite was, you know, the speed, right? So
Mhm.
hence nicotine,
Pretty common.
right? So at the age of 12, I'm going to the store buying packs of cigarettes because it just felt good to get my brain going, right? That's what I needed for my chemical balance, right? So at the end of the day, though, you fast forward, and yeah, I'm a little bit older, but we spent 20 years in the car business, right?
Sure.
And it was a beautiful thing. I learned so much. But I spent 20 years working for somebody, and at the end of that 20 years, I went, whoa, time out. I want to work for me,
Yeah.
right? That's why when I said I come in, I always wear my gear, Cedar Financial, because now it's big. My why is huge, right? It's about what I can do. But I didn't graduate high school. I have a GED. I used drugs on and off for years and years and years. I came from an alcoholic mother who was abusive, and I love her. God rest her soul. She was saved at the end of the day, and she definitely, you know, I love her and I honor her forever on that. But these are things that we went through,
Yeah.
right? But there was never a time when I was going through all of these things, and when I was in the deepest pit, you know, I literally took a bottle of pills and swallowed it.
Mhm.
I was in a deep pit, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have hope. I didn't have faith. I have a limited mindset, right? Once I popped out of that and I got around people, here's what's going to keep you motivated. If you get around people,
Mhm.
you breed your environment,
Oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
God. Yeah.
right? You're going to breed your environment. Get away from the people doing that.
Yeah.
They just want to hold you down, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to be around people that are going to encourage you and inspire you, because inspiration lasts.
Yeah.
Motivation's very, very temporary. And Zig Ziglar says it best. He says, motivation is like bathing. You got to do it every day.
Yeah.
Right? So one thing that I do too, and I see you got some things on your wrist. You got some things on your wrist. They might mean something. They might just be pretty. I don't know. They are pretty, by the way.
Thanks.
So, but I put things on my wrist every day, and number one, my story's not over. Okay, my story's not over. I got a lot. So,
Jason grew up in Michigan.
I grew up in Michigan with my stepmother and my dad,
Right.
and I lived a little stint with my mother in Alabama, deep South Alabama, and I was the Yankee,
Oh yeah.
Oh
for sure.
man, that was a tough one.
So what'd you come to Pennsylvania
That was
for?
a tough one for my wife.
Okay, good.
Yeah, for my wife.
Stint in Washington, the state of Washington.
We you wanted to hear the real crazy story? And you
Yeah,
can cut some of
please.
this out because we only got so much time to talk.
You
but,
can talk as much as you want.
But here's the deal. I attempted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want.
You can do
You don't
whatever
have
you
to.
want.
So when I was going through my deep time and I took that bottle of pills and I woke up in a hospital, at that point something had to change. I got out of the hospital. I had some tickets for disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and some other things, and I didn't have the money to pay, so I ended up going to jail for like 12 days. And my sister, my only sister, love her to death. We're so close, it's unbelievable. But she's really the shining light in my life.
Mhm.
And she reached out. She had a friend who had gotten a tax return that she wasn't expecting. And God pressed on her heart to give me the money to get me out of jail.
Mhm.
Okay. So she calls me, or I call her. I get my one call where she's like, hey, this girl is going to give you money, get you out of jail, get you back to Michigan, get you out of Alabama.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
wow.
amen, man. But I prayed a lot in jail, and that just kind of came together. And that's a whole nother thing. Having faith will allow you, whatever, if you have faith in a process, you have a faith in a God. If you have faith, it will allow you to accomplish whatever
When
and
people-
you need to,
when-
right? So this is a long drawn out story. I'll try to make it a little bit shorter, and I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So once I get to Michigan, my sister gets this job at Cedar Point, Ohio. Okay. And she says, you got to come to Cedar Point and work for the summer. It's really cool. And I'm like, all right. So I go to Cedar Point. I'm this lost, broken guy. But by the way, I'm taking my GED classes at the time. And, I was just praying at the time, I was just like, man, I need solitude in my life. I need an anchor in my life. I need a direction, man. I need to settle down. I'm lucky to be alive at this point, right? And so I go to Cedar Point. A couple weeks later, I meet my wife, Shelly. I meet this girl, Shelly.
Was she already your wife? You just didn't know.
I met this girl. Let me get this narrative right. I met
Right.
this girl, right? She's beautiful, man. Dark hair, light eyes, beautiful girl. I got to talk to this girl, right? And we're in a break area at Cedar Point. And I walk up to her and I'm like, hey, you got a light, right? Because that's an easy opener.
Easy in,
You
yeah.
got a light, right? Because I'm a smoker. Right? She did have a light, and this is her joke. Moving forward, it's always a joke. I wish I wouldn't have had a lighter. I mean, serious. So 26 years later, and we'll fast forward. I have a 26-year-old son, so you can kind of do the math on that,
Real quick,
right?
Jason at one point had a kid in college and 4 kids under 5 years old.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild time in your life.
Yeah,
all of a
well,
sudden.
wild time in my wife's life. She's a blessing, man.
Yeah.
But all those children were in diapers. We had 4 in diapers at one time.
Oh my God.
And we moved back. We went to Washington. I
All your
joined the Army.
struggles, that was the biggest one.
I was like, how?
That- yes, yeah.
All your struggles, that really was.
Right. So, that motivation to work hard, make money, and pay for all in diapers, and I have a big why, right? And but that's how I met my wife. I think that's how it kind of came up. Did you ask how I met my wife? Or
No, I was just having to
You
give a little bit of
said you were from
backstory.
Michigan. And
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
and,
then
and I
stayed-
met him, and I just went off on this tangent. And I do that because I have ADHD. I'm sorry.
That's right.
we
but-
all know.
I'm the guest of the show, right? So let me talk, dang it. No, I'm just kidding. So I met my wife, in Cedar Point. I grabbed 2 jobs. I had just finished getting my GED. I enrolled in college. I dropped out of college. I got 2 jobs to save up money to move here to Pennsylvania. I got here to Pennsylvania with my wife, and I worked 2 jobs forever. I finally said enough's enough. I'm joining the Army. The Army was the best decision of my life I could have ever made. because the truth is, I lacked something. And it was discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I really lack discipline. And that's, if we're talking about an equation of motivation, right? Discipline is the heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it to last, discipline's the heart of it. So I lack that. Well, here's the crazy story. My wife's like, well, I don't want to be married to an Army guy, right? And I go, well, listen, we got to get married because we had our son, Colin. He's a blessing, great kid. You know, I got to get married so that I don't have to relinquish the rights of my child. And I don't want to do that, right? So, and she's like, well, I don't want you traveling without me and stuff. I said, I'm not going to unless I go to war,
Yeah, of course.
right? But there's one place that you can go that your family can't go that's not really wartime, and that's South Korea. Okay. So I've known my wife for how long? Not long. And she got pregnant not long after. And I moved to Pennsylvania, right? And I had this child out of wedlock, okay? But God will make all things good for those who love God. Remember that. And so at the end of the day, I've been married 26 years. I have 5 kids. I go to basic training. She's like, do you know where you're going after basic training? I go, I did know. That's how I knew I was a good salesperson. I was like, no, honey, I don't know. You know.
Well, hold on. Good salesperson. I think
No,
you just
no.
found out you're a good liar.
Yeah. you
You can lie to everybody.
You're
You just
right.
can't lie to yourself.
You can lie to everyone. You just can't lie to yourself. But I was able to just hold her back until I could see her face to face.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And
Yeah.
I didn't really want to tell her over the phone, have her freak out. So she's, that night, she said, do you have your orders? I said, yeah, I do. But prior to that, I was leading her to it. I said, what if I go to Korea? A lot of these guys are going to Korea. Trying to feed in her mind, right? That's where the sales came in. I was
know.
slowly bringing it to her, right? Instead of hitting her in the face with it. And, at the end of the day, when I told her, she said, we'll make it, man. We'll make it through. So I had to go to Korea for a year. My son's 6 months old. I leave my wife, who I hardly know, right? I mean, really? How much do you know a person in a year?
How long before you got married?
We got married once Colin was born, and I decided I was
sorry.
going
How
Army.
many months
Yeah.
was that?
Of knowing her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Colin was born, so it would have been 14.
14 months.
Probably.
Yeah, you don't know
Okay.
anybody. You didn't know them at all.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No.
I don't even
14
know
months.
myself, and it's been 18 months. So.
Right.
Let alone
And I'm still
21.
trying to figure out who I am, right?
Mhm.
So I ship off to Korea for a year, and I come back, and we go to Washington State, and that's where the fun was. I mean, I got
Like for a
out
base out there,
Mhm.
or
Fort Lewis, Washington. And out there, I decided to get out of the Army. It wasn't good for me. I made sergeant in really, really 2.5 years. I was drinking a lot. It just wasn't good. And it wasn't wholesome. It wasn't good. And so we decided I was getting out of the military. I got out of the military, and I decided I couldn't blow up things anymore, right? I was artillery.
We talked PTSD a couple weeks ago, and we talked about vets. But one of the things they struggle with is when you're in the military, your natural fight or flight instincts are kind of what we were born with, the survival and whatnot. When they get in the real world, their PTSD is that they can't wait 2 weeks to get a paycheck to pay their mortgage in a month. It's not active enough, and part of it is they're like, I want to go back to life when it was simple. Whenever
Right.
I'm just
Right.
trying to fight. Yeah,
Right. It's a totally different transition.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And to get highly motivated when you have that much structure is really tough too.
Mm-hmm.
And you're used to this, and this, and then you go out in the real world. What do I want to do? I have choices. That's tough, right?
It is.
So I saw an ad in the paper for the car business, and I jumped into car business, and it was good to me. I was highly successful. I made it to general manager, and then at the end of, and this will bring me to my point of success and motivation, but. I made it to general manager of a dealership, which is pretty
Mhm.
big. There's only
That is it.
I don't know how many general managers there are, but ain't very many.
Well, there's
right?
only one general manager at a
At a
dealership.
dealership.
At one dealership,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and typically you'll get some ownership stock and some different things if you're good. Well, I thought I was pretty good. We doubled our output in the first year, and for Christmas I was getting big gifts, pretty nice gifts, and I thought this was good. I had an offer on the table for our other store, and things were great, man. I was at the pinnacle. And January 3 years ago, I was brought into the office, let go. Very little counseling, very little communication. And I sat there and I wanted to sit there and argue and talk about this for a minute. And so impressed on my heart, man.
Did you
that
know
this
that
was
was happening?
I had a feeling something was going on, but I reached out, right? Lack of communication is out there, man. Let
Oh,
me tell you.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
reached out and I was like, hey, let's have some communication. Let's talk. I don't understand what's going on. We're not talking. It doesn't feel right. Something's going on. Let me know.
Mhm.
And what do we need to talk about? Well, something's going on, this, and this. And no, we're good. Just do what you're doing, man. All right, cool. Month and a half later,
No.
I'm gone, right? And I just thought, and I sat there for a minute and I just went, you know what? I'm a highly motivated individual. I went from 0 to here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do it again.
Mhm.
This is going to not debilitate me. This is going to stimulate Jason. All right.
Mhm.
I'll be fine. I always have been. Right.
The car
And-
dealership, the car dealership, just to give you guys an idea, is a lot like a sports team. And head coaches, they get hired just to be fired later in life.
True
and
story.
That a dealership, you have the same. The sales teams, the players, you got managers that are coordinators, the same thing. And you, outside of leaving on your own, you're just getting hired to get fired.
Right.
Because
So you're always looking. There's always movement, and 20 years in that industry, as you were in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry I kept you there. I don't know if
I'm sorry.
if that's what kept you there.
Hey, most of I admit, it financed my life. I wouldn't be here without it. So
Me too, yeah.
yeah.
And that's what I look back on. But what I do now, though, I'm able to service people, and that motivates me. I'm servicing clients. When I go in front of a client, and I do mostly senior benefits, I do all things insurance, and we do some retirement solutions and annuities and things like that. But when I get in front of a client, it isn't about selling a car anymore,
Mhm.
right? It's look at the shiny things and the wheel. Doesn't that feel good? It's not about that. It's really about servicing that person.
It
right?
really is.
Mhm.
And when I walk out of their home or I get done talking to them, I know they're in a better place than they were.
Mhm.
So it's just a beautiful thing on how life, throws you all this stuff and then it brings you to a pinnacle of where you need to be.
When I interrupted you earlier, you were talking about faith, and a lot of times when people hear faith, they automatically think God. And faith isn't just about God. You can have faith in anything.
The
Sure.
AA says
Sure.
the higher power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I know a lot of people that are like, "Don't talk to me about faith. I don't believe in God." All
How are
right,
their
well,
lives reflecting, right? So
Yeah.
here's what you do if you don't have faith in anything, and at the end of the day, look in the mirror, get naked and look in the mirror. What do you have?
Well, I can tell you. Looks like
Don't
bread-
take that. It's a
Looks
metaphor,
like
right?
bread dough that's sad and just
right,
keeps rising.
right.
Yeah.
You're like, what? So here's the ultimate thing, and you can tell by the fruits of what they produce. People that produce really good fruit, you should probably listen to,
Oh, yeah,
right? And what's fruit, right? Are they happy? Do they have joy? Are they energetic? Do they have something you want? Is there a light there? Do you want that
Yes.
light? Yeah, and I see somebody like that and I just latch on to them, right?
Mhm.
That helps me stay motivated, right? But if I latch on to people that, I don't know, faith, who should, the Bible's a bunch of mumble jumble. All right, cool, man. But look at their lives and go, man, do you have anything in your life that I want? Will I change anything in my life for you, what you have? Would I switch it,
Yep.
right? I'm not switching anything. So here's what happens in life. We get people in front of us and we talk about motivation, right? If you don't have the right people around you,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And people in life in general are like a grocery store, right?
Mhm.
You go in a grocery store, and if you like what you see, or put it in your cart, man. Right? If you don't like what you hear, even today on these topics, if you don't like what you hear, don't put it in your cart. But there's a lot of stuff there where you probably ought to put it in your cart,
Mhm.
right?
You're the average of the.
That makes
five
me
people
think
in
of
the world.
the Man in the Arena.
Go on.
The Man in the Arena speech, where Brene Brown talks about it in her book, but it's one of the, I can't remember which president, someone wants to Google it on their phone.
Yeah,
But they talk
I'll throw all
about,
this stuff up on the screen.
You don't want to listen to the person on the outside, the critic on the outside. You want to talk about the person, you want to listen to the person in the arena doing the work.
Yes.
In the same with the mindset, when you have people that are always saying like, don't believe this faith, and I think whatever you believe in is what matters to you. So if
Mhm.
someone is telling you not to believe in a faith or to not talk about God, like I personally am more of a universe spiritual kind of person, but I would never
Dismiss.
dismiss
Sure.
someone else's. Like
Sure.
what
Sure.
brings you
Yeah,
happiness?
no,
And
Absolutely.
the first character I look at when I meet them is how do they treat others.
Amen.
And if someone is
Waiters,
not nice
waitresses.
or kind to
Mhm.
others, then I'm never
Right.
gonna believe anything
Right.
you say.
Right.
Like
I'm
it's
out.
just
I'm out.
yeah.
Any person
Yeah.
that defaults to anything with an N in it, negative, anything like that. When any
Yes.
person that defaults to that, you kind of, Simon Sinek, I think it was, said it. You want to be the dumbest person in the room. That means you're always learning,
Mhm.
and I never have a problem with that.
Yeah, no,
Always
me
the
neither.
dumbest
And you
person
can
there.
change your mindset. You can change your limiting belief system. I
Yeah.
mean, I grew up in a family on my mom's side of the family. Her dad, which I've talked about my struggles with my grandfather, but he was always just like, "This always happens to me. We have the and like victim mentality."
Mhm.
And like my mom had to work really hard to get out of that circle of poverty, to get out of that.
Generational.
And we've always
Mhm.
and you said something that really resonated with me. We talked about it, I think the last time we had a podcast, is resilience, and me saying like I've lived through a lot of hell, but I'm gonna be okay.
I'll be all
I'm
right.
gonna be all right no matter what happens. I'm
I've
gonna
been
be
thinking
okay.
about that all week, and you said that regardless of what happens, you'll be fine.
I'll be okay.
I
And
never thought that.
We all have the skills to just survive. And if you
Right.
look at the basic, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need food, you need water, you need shelter, you need people. You don't need
Let me
to
take
worry
that
about
biblical
wallpaper.
again. I'm sorry,
No,
guys.
no,
Let me take
absolutely.
it.
Go.
Provisions are always provided.
And
If we
you don't
just
believe in
release
God,
and
that's
so
wild
hey,
because
if there's so many things that I can't control, right? And yes, there's some hardships and things that come, but if I just give that to my God, it happens, man. It's amazing. But my God also wants me to work diligently. It says it in the Bible.
Mhm.
Diligently. It says the sluggard wants everything, right? The sluggard, he wants everything. But the diligent get all the provisions.
sure.
So you got to work, man. You
Mhm.
know?
I look at Trista's gym and the 5 a.m., 6 a.m. class.
Woo.
I look at the people, especially the guys that are about my age. I look at them that they're successful doctors, professionals, whatnot. They come in, and last week it was Saturday, 7:45 a.m. I get a phone call. I thought it was spam. I didn't know. I don't check it till my voicemail till about 8:30. Voicemail won't download, of course. So finally, I get a hold of the person. It was a sales call for a job, and by the time I got to it, somebody else got it. Service Master Johnstown got it. And I'm like, man, I couldn't even be up by 7:45 on a Saturday. These guys they're working out at 5 a.m. There's a difference between who you are and who you want to be. And that really struggled. And Trista, you really surround yourself with good people.
Oh,
You do.
absolutely.
I have to say, for me, my life has flourished tremendously since I started working in the service of others. Helping people that can't do anything for you in return is probably the best gift that you can give
You learn
yourself.
so much about yourself.
Like just giving it away to other people and just doing it for love, just because you
Right.
can from your heart.
Right.
And I think that like I have seen turnarounds and success in my life because that's something I implement. And that's something my grandmother was a Catholic and had the most giving heart. One of the toughest critics on the planet. You make her mad, she will tell you all the ways about yourself, but one of the most giving humans I've ever met in my entire life. Like her from I would say 20 years old till 80 something,
Mhm.
she worked in service.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did a coat drive, we hosted it at my gym. Justin's nephew
Yeah, I
came
saw
up with
that.
the idea.
Yeah, that was cool. Very
And
cool.
we
I
had
love
people
that.
from a community coming in. They're never going to be members at my gym. My gym is a
Right.
higher end fitness gym. They're probably never going to be able to afford that service. But
Right.
that's not why I was doing it.
Right.
I was doing it, helping with this because one,
Right.
it was important to Brantley.
Yeah.
And two, we wanted to help people in our community. People were putting coats on and walking out
And
the
leaving
door
with them on.
because
With-
they didn't have a coat when they
When it
come
came
in.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, right.
You
And
know?
That's
Everything
awesome.
we do here too is free. We've done this for 2 years, and you said about the car business. The car business, up until 2 years ago, financed my entire life, and it provided me the opportunity to do something like this. I took 6 months, 7 months off of work, and just kind of
9.
learned my own life. Might have been 9. No, it's February to November. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I don't even know where I was going with that. So someone else,
We're
Jason,
just
you
doing-
always have lots of
But I
things to
mean,
say.
but I think like when you have the right motivators
Oh,
in
you
life,
Yes,
like
that's
you're
that.
gonna
Oh, yeah.
get what you desire when
Yeah.
There you
you're
go.
Because there are people that are just motivated by greed and money, and that's their only thought. And they don't care about the people they take advantage of. They don't care about the people that they hurt. They don't
Right.
care, what they're taking from other aspects of people's life to get the money. So I think your motivations are a big.
I haven't thought of money in
indicator.
2 years.
Listen, that's huge. I know a lot of rich
That's a
people.
lie.
that
No,
are
I
miserable.
think you need it. I'm
They're
saying the
miserable.
desire to go get
And
it.
you're
I
like,
don't
wait a
have it.
minute. So money isn't success?
Yes.
I know a lot of rich people that are miserable,
Oh,
Miserable.
absolutely.
Mhm.
right? We could name
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah.
Miserable. And they
Mhm.
want to make you miserable, right?
Mhm.
And you go, okay, something in that wheel, and I was kind of talking about it earlier, there's the spokes, right? In success and how you define it. And that's a mindset thing too. How am I going to define success?
Mhm.
And success isn't defined by Jason anymore, by how much money's in my bank account.
Sure.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with my success,
Mhm.
right? My ultimate deciding factor of success for me is how much joy do I have in my heart?
Yes.
Yeah.
How much joy do I have so that my cup runneth over, right? And I can give somebody else joy. And like you said, in a servant way, right? I have 5 children, so, and I fail daily. Don't say I don't, right?
Yeah.
And that's where motivation, when you see you're trying to do all the things right and you're not seeing the result to what you want it to be,
Mhm.
Yep.
that's what stops most people from moving forward.
The greed of
Okay.
wanting to make money and people buying cars and possessions, stuff like that. The greed I've witnessed over the years has made me just not care about money, not even a little bit.
Right.
It means absolutely zero.
Right.
Money is oil that keeps everything moving. Is all
The
it
only
is.
reason money
It
matters
means
to me,
more than zero, Justin,
It
because
absolutely
the
means
truth
more
is
than
it
zero.
opens a lot of doors
Yes.
to
It
allow you to
does.
serve,
It
right?
really does.
If I don't have money, it causes more stress,
Sure.
right? Because I can't make my bills.
Yeah.
And it doesn't allow me to pour out, right? And if you have stressors in your life, it won't allow you to pour out, right? So these stressors, so money's part of that financial success. But it's part of it.
Oh,
But if you have
100%.
financial success, but you have zero, you're bankrupt spiritually, what do you got, right?
Nothing. I said I missed that job.
What if you're bankrupt relationally,
Well, that's even worse.
right? What if you're bankrupt physically?
That's not as bad. Well, I don't know. I mean,
Oh.
it's all equal.
Oh,
It's
you're
equal
talking-
too.
listen,
I
dude.
know, but
Dude, listen, and here's something that everybody should realize too. I want to be a highly motivated individual. If I don't have all of those spokes working together and have some success in all those spokes and focusing on those spokes, then you're never going to be highly successful. You can be motivated for a minute, but once you get all those spokes together, and we'll back up for a second. Physical spoke, listen, if you're not physically fit somewhat, you're not going to feel good about yourself.
for sure.
Okay. And there's a lot of chemicals, you know more about the chemicals than I ever will, right? But when your endorphins are kicking and you feel good, your physiological being is completely connected to your psychological being.
Mm-hmm.
Got
If
brain
you're-
access.
Right. It's all
Yeah.
access. So what I love about you guys with Gym Therapy Inc. is that's 100, you're hitting it 100%. First, if I work on the physical and I release endorphins and get some feel goods and a high, right?
Yes.
We all want this high, right?
Mhm.
And I get that high, man, that's going to open up all the other doors where I can fixate on my goals, be motivated for those goals. And Miss Mingle said earlier, she said, hey, I'm the type of person I want it now. I want to be here. I want to get it now, right?
Mhm. Addiction teaches me that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how our brain works, right? We
Yeah.
want a quick fix.
Victim.
So,
Go on.
no, you go.
I was going to say addicts have a very me first attitude.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
Boom.
You can use that. That was your biggest weakness. You
Mhm.
can use that to make it your biggest strength right now.
Mhm.
The willingness to get up and go get it.
Yeah.
Addicts are so funny when you don't have a drug that you're going through withdrawal, but when you find out you're getting it in an hour, that withdrawal goes away.
It does.
That
It
withdrawal
does.
goes away. You know you're getting it.
And
So
the whole demeanor changes where they go from being this mean, miserable to like, oh, it's a great day.
Yeah.
You know?
the ritual of doing it's almost
Right.
as important as the drug
Yeah,
itself.
or just turning something else that you're like, I mean, being addicted to drugs, you could turn it into a positive thing. Like I know it sounds crazy. Like being addicted to anything should be crazy, but like my brother has the job of his dreams. Like he's a truck driver, and that is like an addiction for him, kind of.
Yeah, and
He
I
loves it, yeah.
think
But
that
you have
if-
to be careful
yeah,
too.
for sure.
Because
Yeah.
like you can turn certain healthy things into unhealthy addictions. You know what I mean?
You
Over exercising,
Yep.
over restricted
Obsession.
on dieting. Yes, like all
Yeah.
of those things
Yeah.
can still
Yeah.
then become unhealthy if we
Yeah.
don't find that balance.
You talked about addiction, like you have a life of addiction from people that are addicted, and you really had to be conscious of that when
Mhm.
you started working out. And when you start stacking coping mechanisms,
Yep.
that's when you know maybe it's time to
I mean,
reflect.
having an eating disorder, that was when my life was out of control. That was the one thing that I could control was intake and all of that stuff. And then whenever life got completely out of control, that's when you lose control and you overeat or you binge or any of those things. And that was a coping mechanism for not being able to deal with the emotional, physical, mental stressors of my life.
Yes.
So until you take care of your mental and emotional well-being, you are going to punish yourself physically or whatever, and you have to, it's all one, like you're talking about the spokes of a wheel. All of that stuff, you have to take control of all of it. And
Yeah.
I think growing up, we weren't always given the best tools. And this is not a knock at our parents or our grandparents.
They didn't have
They
them.
did the best that they
Yeah.
did
Yeah,
with
they
what they
just
didn't
had.
have them.
But
the
we
tools.
weren't
Right.
taught about how to handle our emotions. We weren't taught. It was like you were to be seen, not heard. You and that as a child, like, hey, go make yourself disappear and be quiet,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so you didn't know how to deal with emotions. So I think now for a lot of us in our 30s, 40s, whatever, we're just understanding.
Wait, time
What
out.
our
Am I
emotions
the
are.
whatever? Because you said 30s, 40s.
How old are
whatever.
you?
Whatever.
You're not that old. You're
Whatever,
like,
brother.
You're 43,
Well, thank you.
45?
Love you.
45, 47. Oh shit, I'm almost 40. You're almost 50.
He's saying I am.
He
50,
says
Justin
I'm
said
in my 50s, Justin.
Did you
Drop
just
the
turn
mic.
50?
Boom,
Did you just
drop
turn
the
50?
mic.
I've known you too
No.
long. You're
No, I'm
not.
closer to 50 than I am 40.
I was going to
but-
say.
Guy, and here's the thing too, brings me up to the next topic. Listen, it doesn't matter how old you are. See, those are limiting belief
My
factors.
God, that's
I'm 50, I
pet
can't
peeve.
do it. Listen, I'll be in the best shape of my life if I keep with the mental attitude that I have
Yeah.
right now at 50.
Correct.
I'll be in the best shape of my life at 60.
I
Okay.
became an adult at 35.
It's enough. Here's why most people fail when they go after something. They don't realize how hard it's really going to be.
Mhm.
They feel like I got it. I'll have it. Whew. Well, however hard you think it's going to be, you might as well multiply that by 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Be prepped for that at least.
Be prepped mentally. Now you have the mental toughness, right? First year in business, whoo, I prayed 17 times a day. Like, whoa, what am I doing? What am I doing,
Yep.
right? I spent my savings, cashed my 401k. But why did I do all of that?
Because you wanted to do what you
Because I'm
wanted
going to do
for
this.
you.
Yeah.
No matter what, I'm going to do this. And in my mind, what's the worst thing that could ever happen? I have a nice home. I've made a good living for a lot of years. I have a nice home, a nice vehicle. I've got, a pretty decent lifestyle. Okay, worst case scenario, I'll file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will. And I will because I'm going to do Cedar Financial, right? So at the beginning, it was like, okay, oh, wow, I made it. Oh, wow, I profited. I profited, right? It was like, oh, hallelujah, right? And it was the little wins that I thought, now, once you get those little wins, all of a sudden you see and you have faith in the process, right?
Yeah.
So Napoleon Hill says it best, guys. And if you haven't read Napoleon Hill, you need to read Napoleon Hill. He is an OG. Original
Okay.
gangster, okay?
I'll throw again up on our screen.
All right.
I'll throw some.
Napoleon Hill. Desire backed by faith, faith in the process, knows no such thing as defeat.
We talked mostly this whole time about existential motivation. Now, what do you do with that information? You're like a dog that just caught a car. What do we do with all this stuff? How do you, when you wake up?
How do you apply it?
How do you apply it? When you wake up in the morning, like being bipolar, there are days I wake up, I do not need motivated. I'm
No,
out the
me
door.
either,
I'm going.
yeah.
I'm bang, bang,
You're
bang,
right, yeah.
banging. But what about the? I want to go over some of the stuff on Healthline.com. When you wake up and you have zero motivation, Tristan? What's the first thing you do when you wake up in just a terrible mood?
Basically, I think I tell myself who I am and why I do what I do. So there are days, of course, I wake up and I'm like, I could just sleep in. I don't want to work out today. And then I lay there for a second. I compose myself and I'm like, I'm a healthy person.
Mhm.
I work out. This is what I do. I own a gym. I help change lives. This is what I do. Then I get up, I get dressed, and I go. Days where I'm in a bad mood, I think I just have to reflect on what's going on internally.
Sure.
Like, what is it? Hey, what's going on? Am I, is it a bad day, or is it just have a bad circumstance? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
Mhm.
that's a big thing. Is
What's
it
the why?
is
Yeah.
it a terrible day, or did I just spill coffee on my shirt first thing in the morning? I can turn this around. So, and that took work.
When that happens,
To
I'm
be
like,
that person.
we're not having this kind of day.
Yeah.
Nope.
Did you talk about when you were stuck in traffic? Did you
Yes.
ever talked about that on
I
our
don't
show?
know if I have in the show.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really
so
like that.
I was living in Baltimore. I moved to Baltimore when I was like 19, 20, and I was dating this guy, and he was really much into Buddhism. Great human being, and I was stuck in traffic, stuck in a tunnel for hours, and I get home, and I'm just like slamming stuff around. I'm in a bad mood. It's like horrible, and he walks in the room, and he's like, Trista, what is wrong with you? And I was like, stuck in traffic, an hour late, I'm starving, like slamming stuff. And he's like, hey, are you still in traffic? And I said, no. And he's like, then why are you being such a bitch? And then I stormed out of the room and
he's
walked
right.
back in, and I was like, you're right. So then when I got stuck in traffic, I used it at times to like have a concert in my car, have time for it where it was just me, where I wasn't around other people. And I typically don't get road rage anymore. But like if someone's driving 30, I'm not like running up on them and stuff like that. I'm like, it is what it is, man. Like
People
this
think
is
they
it.
have a free pass to be an asshole when they're behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What was your first question again?
So
Go back to that question.
whenever you wake up and
You don't feel like it.
Yeah,
You just
so-
don't feel like it. Everybody has those days, right?
right.
Give yourself permission to have a day like that every once in a while.
Oh, absolutely.
We beat ourselves up, and
So
I am
much.
the biggest critic, and especially on an addict side, because I consider myself an addict. Okay, I walked away from drugs, luckily with faith in God, and I walked away from drinking, and I used. Okay, I used enough, and so I consider my brain the way that I'm wired. I'm very much an addict, and I am very critical of myself. Right, I'm the biggest critic. Jason is Jason's biggest
100%.
critic. I have a million things to do in my company. There's a million opportunities. I can do so much, right? But I get tired, man. I get wore out,
Yeah,
right? And I'll take a day off, and thankfully for my wife, who's also beautiful, I have to put that plug in there. Thankfully for her, she's like, listen, if you're gonna take a day and just, I play COD. I'll play Call of Duty, believe it or not, right? And I'll be there playing COD for like an hour and a half, right? And I know I got a million things to do. And then I'll get even more mad at myself. Like, I got things to do, right? My wife will go, come in and she'll listen. You can play video games. You're allowed to, all right? You're allowed to do that, but just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's like, I'm okay with it.
Don't
Yeah.
be-
If you don't be a dick. And I'm like, all right. I'll ask her in the mornings, like when I'm not working and I'm not moving, I do get into a slump.
get out of bed, take your pajamas
Yep.
off,
Yep.
do something physical. Doing something physical is the easiest way to create those endorphins.
Who takes cold showers?
You're
I
supposed
do.
to.
Even
At
when
the
I
very
wasn't-
end of my shower.
So you're a tempest.
At the end of your shower.
Slowly turn it down.
No, I haven't done it for a little while, but that was something I was doing to like heal my fight or flight because it was activated for a long time,
Okay.
and that I would.
When you
turn
say fight or
cold.
flight, is that an anxiety? What is that? I don't understand what that is.
Like your fight or flight mechanism is where like you're in high alert, high response constantly. So like
So your anxiety is
Yeah.
high. Okay,
Mhm.
that's what I thought you meant.
So
by that.
yeah,
Okay.
they say like one way to do that is to
Shock yourself.
put the shower on cold, stand
Mm-hmm.
in there, and that starts to help it. And like humming in the
Mhm.
shower, so Eric would be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, in the shower. But it really worked. And like I was in that fight or flight for months at a time. Like
Yeah.
I was like just sweating, sitting,
Yeah.
like doing nothing, and
Did
it
you
was
get
freaking
COVID?
me out.
Did you have COVID?
I did. Yeah.
Was this after COVID? Did you have more neurological issues than you did prior
Um,
pre-COVID?
I don't think so. I
No?
think this is more of like a mental. Like I was going
Okay.
through like
Some other
after
stuff,
COVID,
yeah.
like owning a gym,
Sure.
divorce,
Owning a gym,
death of a
getting through
friend,
it.
like all of
Oh,
it.
a lot of
Yeah.
you were just getting hit.
Just
You're
owning
getting left
something
and
to
right.
all at once.
You
We
owned a
made it
gym
system.
through
Yeah.
COVID. That was tough.
Wow.
My first year in the car business was 07. I started 08 was the housing crisis.
Oh.
We've all kind of overcome a lot of stuff professionally,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just mentally.
So Justin, how do you stay motivated, right?
How do you stay motivated? I think you stay grounded. You stay grounded. You got to know what you want. You got to set that internal GPS. And you have to know that even if I'm driving 40 instead of 60, I'm still moving forward. Yeah.
Don't stop.
Don't
if you
stop.
can tell anybody anything,
I think it was Journey
Don't
that said, "Don't
stop.
stop believing." I
Don't
don't
stop
know if you
believing.
guys have ever heard that.
don't stop believing. Come on, you know it.
Yeah, you don't want to hear me sing.
All right,
Yeah.
your turn.
Nope.
Yeah.
So,
Slow hands, got sweat dripping down my back, fat baby. That's not how it goes.
which
is it?
one's that?
Some days we have 100%. We are completely
Yeah.
motivated. Other days we have 50% to give that day.
Right.
And that's okay
It's
too.
okay.
And to give yourself that grace, because I was always really, really hard on myself.
Yep.
And some days I decided, like, you have 50% to give today. That's what's in the tank.
Yep.
That's all you could give today.
Mhm.
Tomorrow.
Just show up.
And as JP
Right.
says at the gym, tomorrow's another day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then I just like went by that mindset,
Yeah.
and it's definitely changed.
Yeah.
I am a lot nicer to myself and kinder to myself, which makes me better for all the people that I help lead and support.
For sure.
Absolutely,
People always
yeah.
now. Car sales is the worst. Buy it now. I thought I gotta sell something tomorrow too.
Mhm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But any final thoughts?
No, man. Thanks for being here.
No,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was telling you, I
Thanks
think
for having me.
everyone should check out we're talking about motivation and mindset, the book Do Hard Things by Steve Magnus, one of the best resources. I was telling the story, I was in a triathlon where we did kayak, bike, and run. And I was biking up this shitty hill. It's a really hard hill, and I'm like, "Good job, guys!" And people were coming down, and they're looking at me like, "You're a psychopath." But like, I was having internal dialogue with myself, like, "This isn't terrible.
Right.
I do hard things. This is what I
Yeah.
do for a living."
Yeah.
And it changed, it changed that whole environment for me.
Yeah.
And the
Did you
thought
buy it or
process.
listen to it?
I listened to it.
I'm gonna
I would give
follow up with another OG. All right, original gangster, Zig Ziglar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a big one.
Zig Ziglar, Born to Win.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Read that book, Born to Win, and you go, whoa, mindset. I'm a winner. I was born to win. And my second one, OG, literally Og Mandino, greatest salesman on the world. You don't have to be a salesperson to read this book, but it's the greatest salesman in the world. And he talks about, and you want to talk about motivation, that's a book to read. And another, real quick, I'll leave you this quote is, not only persistence overcomes resistance, right? Perseverance overcomes resistance.
Mhm.
But I was not brought into this world to fail. I was not brought into this world to be a sheep.
Yeah.
I was brought into this world to be a lion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll be a lion.
There's
Right.
reasons we have thumbs and animals don't in the cerebral cortex that makes
That's
us
it.
able to do this. We're meant
That's
for
it.
bigger things.
Mhm.
And a book I read that's not so much. These are all motivational. They're in your face, talking to you, telling you. A book that I really enjoyed that's not like that is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I read that during the 6 months that I was off work, and it just kind of lets you know you don't need the material things. Like whenever you're a soldier trapped and your only source of substance is to be able to like chew on a belt, and you have to save and sit past cigarettes.
Right, right.
You really find out what's important in life, and it's not.
I
It's
don't
not the
read any
material
books.
things.
You
Right.
guys just give
Never
me all
the
the
material.
information
Yes.
from them, and I just don't have to read them.
All
But
right.
you guys tell me what they're about.
That's a limiting belief system, Melissa.
All right.
We don't like that here.
That's it. No limit.
That's right.
Don't have a limited belief system. So how you want to end the show, man?
We usually just say love
We're
you,
done.
bye,
Yeah.
Love you, right? So on the count of three, we're going to say,
and then I say something right
don't
after
stop.
that.
And don't say nothing.
Don't say I have to
Don't
say
stop.
one thing. Don't stop.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Don't stop.
Don't stop.
Ah.
All right, love you guys. Go outside.
Love you back.